Hey, what's going on? This is Anthony Gutierrez making a video, and I was just on the internet watching the videos of what I would think is the all you see on the internet for the most part is current. Whether you could stream the timelines of what intention the gods want to set for those that they say are awake, which are really the vessels that they select of the 9 billion to take over and fully occupy. And our consciousness is actually, there's a lower and a higher mind, and for the most part you're in the lower part. When you're in the higher part, you're only there for a second or so. If you really think about it, then you kind of lose that higher mindset, or you may be there for an hour and it takes that long and you get a slight message. But that's not actually the way that you're supposed to learn stuff. You're not supposed to receive messages based on a current war, which is never mentioned really. You don't hear much about it. And for the most part, everybody on this planet is subjected to slavery, and worse than slavery, sacrifice. Or I don't know where the gods came up with this idea that it's okay to do this to beings, because I fully do not agree. And there's other things in here I'll disclose later on in these videos as a part of my own obligation. And it stems not only from within me, it has to do with the rights and the propriety of the beings of this that are being manipulated for this affair. And they'll say the manipulation is everybody's, is all in the all. But you'll have to know a truth, which is the gods do not love you. Any being that subjects you to something of this nature doesn't love you. That's if they say they love you, that's just what you want to believe. They are a benefactorial type of being. And if you take that root word, and you'll see what the root results in is benefit. They're not sharons. They don't share. They're not sharians if they were that low, because ions, the aeons at the end of it would mean ions, and they're not an ion-based being. They're higher than that. They have a higher formation, and knowledge like that is what we were always not told about. Now, I wrote some stuff down earlier, and this was from another video that I made, or I don't know if I made this one yet, because I have a bunch of titles that I wanted to get to. But before I started going off on that, because there's so many keys, parts of consciousness you have to assemble to understand what's going on, and it's all being blocked. Like I've said before, and I like to repeat these things so that it makes an impression, is that we were not taught. And that, in my mind, is a crime. Whether it is to save a galaxy or not, they denied us our proper life. And that's the part I don't understand, is why they would subject us and take that role and say, well, you'll all die now and you'll live your life as you believe it to be normal. Which is not what we're supposed to believe, because we all have a feeling that it's not right. And we have to eat it, and we take it. That's not what somebody's supposed to do to another when they want you to help them fight a war against draconians. Which is that we're not even really helping. What they do is they take our vessel and put their own awareness in it and spread out an energy grid so they could take over this section of the galaxy. By doing so, they push out the energy of the draconians, because God's energies can do that, and so can draconians. If they operate this area, or another being operates this area, then they have the rights. And I think that what happened is something to the effect that we as beings a long time ago, the draconians did experiments on the god genes and made beings of this lower possibility, and the gods were able to contest it by claiming it as an experiment. Or maybe they just all moved into this area, and before they start shooting their lasers off, or their weapons that destroy whole planets, which the beings on this planet are not tough. We beings fear death, and will even result ourselves into slavery, which gods will not. So that's something that we all do that is wrong. They're asking us to do things that no other beings will do, and that's slavery. They won't even subject themselves to that. They'll go out shooting before they turn into a slave. And they may say, like, you'll hear an argument from them every time, and I'll tell you that you could always come back to what I say is true. No matter how much they talk you out of it, you could always come back to the fact that what I'm telling you is true. They'll never turn into slaves themselves, ever. Even if the avian or the Dracos were to take some gods, and the gods will go to war probably. They'll go to war, they'll go there and start shooting shit up before they let gods be taken. And that might not be any rule book, but I'll tell you that that's probably true. They will not allow another god to be taken prisoner. But they create a low being like us, and then they feel like they could do whatever they want with it. But that creates a schism in the fact that we know stuff, but they even push us down further if we try to deny it. Like the fact that we're supposed to all live in a light body longer than we do now. We always felt that possibility, and maybe the gods will say that was us saying that to you, but we were not created by the gods solely. The universe made it a possibility for us to be created. So if you ever get that working for you, you'll see that even you could say before the gods, if you want to resort to prime source, or you could just resort to the fact from the possibility that who's in control, the gods, Dracos, or the universe. And you would say the universe, and the gods will say, well, we do what we want with the universe, but there has to be an attunement for life. They're actually subjecting us to the lowest possibilities and putting their possibilities in this and saying it's us. And if we accept it, we're in denial of what we are. And then therefore you're subjected to the law of the universe, which they are aware of and they made you unaware of. And they take your body and give you the least amount of awareness for what you're worth. So you can see how things are all messed up. And I love to use the analogy of we all didn't know the planet was round. We always thought the world was flat, and the whole world would have believed that. But who gave us that belief? The gods. The internal voice we all hear all the time and go through is given to us by the gods. It's the mindset of the being that rules on this planet. And there's a whole host of beings which create these laws, and the Elohim, which there's Elohim for every layer or every plane to the center of the galaxy, and in this sector, in this corner of the galaxy, which is probably the other galaxies closest to it also, there are other Elohims or beings that are in charge of the mindset of the galaxies. But don't let this blow your mind. Don't let this make you think that you don't have a right to live. That's where we would lose, is when you start to give up your rights. Because anyone that's willing to put their life on the line every day and their thoughts and get their minds crushed into oblivion and still come back and still want to live right and help others should be able to have that right. And in my mind, it should be if one of us is responsible for the death of everybody, one of us should be responsible for the life of everybody, and it should become a rule. But these gods and these Dracos go around fucking around in the galaxy. And you can't always say it's the Dracos whenever we say something's going on. Well, the Dracos would take our bodies and experiment with us, and you wouldn't even be alive at all. But if you know what happens to some beings here on the planet, which God runs, you'll see that these sorry suckers like me are in a purely subliminal state all day, and my body's being ran. The mindset goes across to other beings in the so-called galactic community, which I do get problems with, because this purpose they serve and I serve on occasion isn't what we would really want. You know, the lowest beings on the pole don't get it right. And if they were already there, I wouldn't have an objection to this. But the fact is that it was plotted, unplanned, and other pocket civilizations of terrans, or if we even had what it took to be a terran, because God didn't even make that possible, because we're not human. Human is Hua, and Hua is an old word which means light, and man is Manvantara, or it has manas, or machinations, which are lines of, just like in the galaxy of, it's just like a machine, only part of the universe machine, just like the planets and all the energies are, which they hone the light from. So these other beings, these light beings, or the beings that they created, is what they call themselves when they take over our bodies. So if you hear yourself say people, human, I, that's all these geometries of dynamics. You know, we don't even know what the word God stands for, most of us on this planet, because we've been kept in this state of ignorance. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is ignorance of the fact that you're supposed to be living a certain way, just like the planets have to attune and move in a certain way. They don't get to stop and rest. They have to make the most of their energy while they're under pressure and move in certain routes. And so do the gods, apparently, because they always do whatever the route predicts. So this video isn't saying anything in particular. What it is making you aware of is your rights. Excuse me. Whenever you hear something like that, that's emotional turmoil from the gods. Whenever you hear somebody's voice change like this, where they have like a raspiness, or you hear them burping or farting, or their stomach's going crazy, that's all part of this negative state which they subject us to, by making us even more carnal than we're supposed to be. We are lights also. We are very small light, but we're a light. But the gods decided it was in our best interest to blind us for a couple tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 years, to do their experiments. And in this time, many beings will pass and die what we call a regular death here on this planet. But if you really think about it like we're supposed to, and you examine something where it drives you crazy to the point that you're going to find the answer one way or another, and all other things lose their interest to you, and you go to the point where you know something's not right. That's what they always say when they say souls don't want to incarnate, is that these souls, just like my soul, is aware that something is wrong. And maybe I was given this opportunity to see this, but the opportunity to tell everybody and to make sense of it was held back, and is being held back. Even this video will probably be blocked by the government, or you won't want to watch it and you won't know why. You know, all these beings want to see all these videos about the truth, but if it's not fancy, they don't want to, because God made us all trivial. We're all very small-minded in these times, and we think it's beneficial to be so fast and move to where we think everything should be, but we don't examine the fields of knowledge thoroughly. And just like the gods trying to make two things pertinent at once, you'll see that their voice isn't always the voice within the being. These gods want to act like they're all in all. They're not all in all. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.